Hi, everyone. Harry here to talk about a very powerful lawsuit that has been filed by Maureen Comey, daughter of former FBI Director Jim Comey, against the government and all the actors in the government that fired her summarily. Where to start? How about here? It's a really pristine lawsuit. There are so many swirling lawsuits out there, and they involve people with different levels of possible protection to their jobs and different levels of possible exemplary service or not, so that the administration could try to somehow tar them in defending against their firing. Comey is top of the charts in performance and bottom of the charts, abysmal, in other words, in the government's complete joke of a rationale for trying to fire her. Okay, she's in the Southern District of New York, was in the Southern District of New York, which many of you know is the kind of jewel in the crown of the DOJ and gets many of the most prominent cases. And she indeed had many of the most prominent cases personally, including Sean Combs, including no less than Jeffrey Epstein. She handled that case, and as well as the one against Ghislaine Maxwell that is still pending. And it was as that was sort of bubbling up over the effort to release the materials from the grand jury that Maureen Comey first comes to attention. As I said at the time, and I think as was clearly borne out, there was nothing in the grand jury record for Comey's prosecution of Epstein that could have been at all informative. They were totally playing her, or playing the public, really, to suggest that her case, which was brought many, many years later, only against Epstein and his little boys club and Maxwell facilitators, not involving the victims. The administration was completely doing a head fake, saying, we're for transparency. We'll try to have this stuff released. But that involved her, put her in public view. And then, boom, they just lowered the hammer in January. She got a completely elliptical termination notice from the DOJ that said simply that she was being terminated, quote, pursuant to Article 2 of the U.S. Constitution and the laws of the United States. That is it. In other words, they're saying we don't have anything that we can touch you with, but we have the assertion of broad authority from the president to do this to whomever he wants to do. This is, she's got a series of big prosecutions under her belt at this point. She just received an outstanding review. She is well known by reputation being a solid actor. So what did she do wrong? And the allegation is clear, although the first part of the allegation is this: nothing. So in other words, the basic case is, you may not fire me. I have civil service protections. I have certain due process protections. The Constitution requires that not only I get certain process, but that prosecutors not be fired for improper reasons, and they've given none. Now, in addition, there's a whole overlay that they may try to deny, but God knows how they could possibly do it. saying she was fired because Trump hates her dad. And of course, Trump does hate her dad and has been crosswise with him for 8+ years, including an effort to launch a criminal investigation against Jim Comey for criticism that he made for ridiculous reasons. And we also have here, as part of it, part of the hatred of the Trump clan and the Comey clan, the participation of the great and powerful Laura Loomer, who, to quote Donald Trump, has said, if you're Loomered, you're in deep trouble. That's the end of your career, in a sense. And she, Comey, certainly was Loomered. Loomer called for Comey's liberal daughter and her Democratic husband to be fired from the DOJ immediately for being a national security risk via their proximity to a criminal, that would be Comey, who just committed a felony by threatening to assassinate the president. And I just decided, rather than even going through the ridiculousness of this assertion, I'll serve it up there. Okay, so besides that, she is really putting it to the test of whether or not it's lawful to do absolute reprisal firings of the president's enemy. You take it to another level here, of course, of unfairness, nastiness, and inanity by firing Maureen Comey because of her dad. So in other words, she is innocent of any possible charge, and she's a great prosecutor who you just saying goodbye to. And she handled herself in an exemplary way, told her colleagues, to hang in there and fight the good fight. Now, what do we got here? As I sort of said at the outset, there are all these different levels of people in the U.S. government, including people appointed by the president, including people nominated by the Congress, including people who are senior executive service staff, including people who are political. Every high-up official has a couple political special assistants. And then you have the career staff. And so Maureen Comey is the absolute pristine, as I say, example of the illegality or not. The Supreme Court will have to tell us, and it would be very clear, but for a lack of confidence engendered by the court's shadow docket rulings in the last several months, that there is protection here, no right whatsoever she's got a right. There's just the whole Civil Service Reform Act that gives her all kinds of protections, right to due process. All she received here was Article 2, whatever that means, and they haven't said it. So if the law that was the law is the law, they are liable 8 ways from Sunday. Now, there remains the question, which we saw from the start with Trump's hauling out of the DOJ, is there an effective remedy here? Because there is a state of play in which the courts hold for the Comeys of the world. And I just want to say that Comey is now sort of example number one of the complete lawless firing for complete lawless reasons, or the absence of lawful reasons. If they hold for, they might say, they violated your rights. You've got this money coming to you, that money to you. And we're talking about thousands of people now, by the way, for whom it's multiplied. But Comey's asked for more. She wants reinstatement. She wants a holding that they violated the APA and the Constitution. And that's going to be, we've already had some cases in the D.C. Circuit where conservative appointees of Trump have been saying things like, well, yes, maybe that's against the law, but that doesn't mean you can force the president to reinstate her. Why not? I mean, it's the lost wages are nothing. The lost ability Comey herself and to the public, to serve the public in the exemplary way she has. That's the cost to all of us of this complete, crass political reprisal waves within the department. And again, to date, we've been really jockeying with some of the preliminaries, but Comey's suit is going to be strong. And you'll possibly see, but you needn't see a preliminary ruling saying let her back in now. Maybe the Supreme Court would reverse that, but I think this case is going to continue, and you just couldn't have a stronger plaintiff than someone who's composed a stellar record, has done nothing wrong. Even the proffered reasons are completely cryptic, and any explanation at all seems to be based on just the petty, nasty animus toward her father, not even toward her. It's a case to watch. Talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.